You have to go back to what young brother here referred to as the house Negro and the field Negro. Back during slavery, there was two kinds of slaves. There was the house Negro and the field Negro. The house Negro, they lived in the house with master. They dressed pretty good. They ate good because they ate his food, what he left. They lived in the attic or the basement, but still they lived near their master. And they loved their master more than the master loved himself. They would give their life to save their master's house quicker than the master would. The house Negro, if the master said, we got a good house here, the house Negro said, yeah, we got a good house here. Whenever the master said we, he said we. That's how you can tell a house Negro. If the master's house caught on fire, the house Negro would fight harder to put the blaze out than the master would. If the master got sick, the house Negro would say, what's the matter, boss? We sick. We sick. He identified himself with his master more than his master identified with himself. And if you came to the house Negro and said, let's run away, let's escape, let's separate, that house Negro would look at you and say, man, you crazy. What you mean separate? Where is there a better house than this? Where can I wear better clothes than this? Where can I eat better food than this? That was that house Negro. In those days, he was called a house nigger. And that's what we call him today because we still got some house niggers running around here. This modern house Negro loves his master. He wants to live near him. He'll pay 3 times as much as the house is worth just to live near his master. And then brag about, I'm the only Negro out here. I'm the only one on my job. I'm the only one in this school. You're nothing but a house Negro. And if someone come to you right now and say, let's separate, you say the same thing that the house Negro said on the plantation. What you mean separate? From America? This good white man? Where you gonna get a better job than you get here? I mean, this is what you say. I ain't left nothing in Africa. That's what you say. Why, you left your mind in Africa.
Salaam Alaikum. Mr. Moderator, our distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, our friends and our enemies.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live!
Bismillah. Salatu wassalamu rasulullah wa ba'd. In the name of Allah, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon his last and final messenger. Family, friends, foes, haters, and hateettes, welcome back to the Feachaz. I greet you all in peace and love and no hatred in my heart. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So before we begin, please like, please subscribe, and please share. As you know, we got a lot of haters up in here. And family, the FBI is a criminal organization that was really set up in order to make sure to sabotage anything that looked like black development. Okay, it was set up by J. Edgar Hoover, and there is no limit of hatred to this card-carrying member of what is now known as the LGBTQ community in order to sabotage anything resembling blackness. Right? Back then they were calling him homosexuals. He was a closet homosexual back then. Okay? But now they call themselves the LGBTs. And you find black folk all over the West aligning themselves with this hostile, devilish element called the LGBT, thinking that they're going to achieve something called freedom by making alliances with the enemies of Allah himself. So now we have another case where this criminal organization called the FBI has been caught once again in its criminality. And of course, there will be no sort of repercussions in this crime that they have committed. But once again, this anti-black organization, they might as well be the Klan, has made sure to exploit the black community in order to make it look like they actually do work. Which, of course, they do not. The only work that they are really concerned with is ensuring the downfall and the steady slide of the black community. The Newburgh 5, if you're a little bit older, you might remember that when 9/11 happened, the inside job, which is now known as 9/11. Okay. When 9/11 happened, there was a lot of money put into these fake investigations in order to stop the rise of the lie, which is called Islamic terrorism. Okay? We talked about this many times, right? That Islamic terrorism, all Islamic terrorism is, it is a proxy for Westerners to fund and send weapons and wealth in order to destabilize whatever country they want to destabilize. And then wipe their bloody, dirty hands clean from any responsibility and blame the Muslims. And a big part of this in order for this to work, you have to have certain ideologies prevalent for this to work. Like the Khawarij types. Okay? You must have that ideology present. These highly emotional Khawarij types, non-thinking Khawarij types, who play off the oppression and the broken heartstrings of the Muslim world in order to fight jihad. Okay, that's what they call it. So fighting jihad in our era, making jihad is essentially nation building for nefarious Western powers. We talked about this in a great detail in one of the videos. I can't remember which one of the lives that we did. We were mentioning about Afghanistan and how, the same devilish U.S. government who trained Osama bin Laden, gave him training, weaponry, everything that he needed in order to push back the Soviet Union at that time, right? All of a sudden, after 9/11, all of a sudden we have this new group called Al-Qaeda. Nobody knew what Al-Qaeda was before that. And then suddenly we have this group called Al-Qaeda. So anyways, why am I going back there? Because after 9/11 happened, what we found was a type of mass fear running in the wider immigrant community. And of course, these devils exploited and instinctively took advantage of that fear. And one of the things that they did is very similar to what happened in slave times, where you had a type of law called meritorious manumission. Meritorious manumission is when the slaves, if they would snitch on a rebel slave group, they would achieve their freedom. You see how history is repeating itself. And we keep saying here that the black struggle is the Muslim struggle. And what is happening is these immigrants are so intent on cozying up and ingratiating whiteness that they will shuck and jive and sell out and booty shake and butt shake for these devils, as long as they can get in close and good with them. Y'all feel me? Y'all understand what I'm talking about? So now, 9/11 produced the Islamic version of meritorious manumission, where many of your so-called Muslim brothers were getting paid a lot of money from the U.S. government, the British government, the Canadian government. Y'all might, if you're from Canada, you know about the Toronto 19. To snitch, but not just snitch, to set up and frame fictional terror cells in order to get the bag. That's what the Toronto 19 was about. And that is what this situation here with the Newburgh 4 is about. So we are going to look at some of these articles here. So as y'all can see here, this is from The Guardian, right? Judge orders release of 3 Newburgh 4 and accuses FBI trolling for terrorists. We know the FBI very well. Right? If you're black and you are like, from the descendants of slaves, you know about the FBI very, very, very well. Okay? I don't think there's a bigger criminal organization than the FBI or the CIA. The amount of people that they have assassinated, that they have set up, killed, arrested without due process. Mostly black people, mind you. Assad Shakur still number one on the FBI's most wanted list up until this very day for the crime of escaping from prison, embarrassed the U.S. government prison system. Okay, you have Sheikh Jamil Alamin, who is in prison up until this very day, a political prisoner, set up and framed for murder. This is what they do. So, if you don't know about the Newburgh 4, we're going to learn about the Newburgh 4 right now. A lot of this was going on during 9/11. That's why if you were around at that time, you know a lot of these setups were going on and Muslims started shucking and jiving and, and that's when Islam became peace, because they didn't want to get sent to Guantanamo Bay. They didn't want to get, charged under the Patriot Act. What y'all got to understand is that you don't have to commit any crimes for these people to arrest you. That's not the goal here. The goal is control. To control the wider population through violence and terrorism and, imprisoning you without due process, and then torturing you and calling it, what do they call that? Enhanced interrogation methods. That's what they do. They are demons. You are talking about the pharaohs of our time. So, 3 men convicted in a post 9/11 terrorism sting were ordered freed from prison by a judge who deemed their lengthy sentences unduly harsh and unjust. Wait till you find, man, I'm not going to say it now, but just remind me to come back to the sentences being unduly and harsh. Okay, maybe they might have it in this article. This is my first time reading this article, right? But this is such a joke. But anyways, and decided that the role of the FBI in radicalizing them in a plot to blow up New York synagogues and shoot down National Guard planes. Anta Williams, David Williams, and Legare Payan, 3 of the men known by the Newburgh 4, were helpless, easily manipulated, and penurious petty criminals. This is the article. That's what they're saying about them. Okay? Caught up more than a decade of a scheme driven by overzealous FBI agents, dodgy informants, U.S. District Judge Colleen McMahon said. Okay? So, family, who is the judge in this case? The judge is Colleen McMahon, correct? Yes or no? The judge is Colleen McMahon, correct? Yes or no? That's her name, correct? She is the one who's saying that the sentences were unduly harsh and unjust, correct? Who? Judge Colleen McMahon. Yes or no? Put it in the chat. And there's 11 of y'all. Well, how come I only got 1 like? There's 11 y'all, only 1 like. What is that? Now who's been left? Likes up, please. Likes up. Thank you. Yes. Yeses are coming. Yeses are coming. Excellent. We commend Judge Colin McMahon for saying these sentences were unduly harsh and unjust. We commend her for that. But here's the question. Who was the original presiding judge in this case? Who was it? Did any of y'all know? Yes or no in the chat if you know who it was. You know what? We ain't going to wait. We're going to tell you who it was. It was Judge Colleen McMahon. You heard that correctly. The same judge that is saying that the sentences were unduly harsh and unjust was the very same judge that gave these four men these unduly harsh and unjust sentences to begin with. So when these bones and biscuit so-called Muslim personalities have all this work and vitriol for critical race theory, just point to this article. You know, you don't argue with folks like that. We in Islam, we believe in justice, you know, being just as a part of a belief, being just within human society. But there's another type of justice that we believe in. We also believe in divine justice, where people think they got away with all kinds of heinous crimes. All kinds of heinous crimes. And then they sleep well at night. But what happens is, you know, Allah sends them the angel of death. And then, from then on, they are receiving justice from Allah. But there's another type of divine justice. There's a divine justice that happens on the earth, where Allah Himself intervenes to inflict His justice on His creation. These folks believe that they can hold on and hang on to their white supremacist system, the system of Pharaoh. They believe that they can hold on to it. And they are inviting Muslims to come and participate with them in clinging on to this very system that destroyed all their countries and sent their mommies and daddies over to the West to become refugees. And they're participating willingly. But we as black folk, all we have to do is understand that there is absolutely nothing worthy of worship except for the one true God, first and foremost. And that their time is coming to an end. It is very obvious. You might have noticed the last 2 or 3 years, even the weather internationally is changing. These folks are calling it global warming, but we are Muslim. We are calling it Allah sending you some warning shots as a mercy. Your time is coming to an end. Those of us who read the Quran, we understand the stories of the past. How many nations that thought they were self-sufficient, they were arrogant, they had all the wealth, all the power. And in an instant, Allah overturned all of these societies. So what we're going to do here is we're going to watch something. We're going to do a quick commentary. All right, so let me just switch up here.
A federal judge has ordered the release of 3 New York men who were sentenced to 25 years in prison for their role in a government-orchestrated bombing plot. The men, who were all black and Muslim converts, became known as the Newburgh Four. They were convicted in 2010, sentenced to 25 years in prison for placing what they thought were bombs in a New York synagogue. Supporters of the men have long argued they were entrapped by the government. On Thursday, U.S. District Judge Colleen McMahon issued a stunning ruling ordering the compassionate release of 3 of the 4 men. In her ruling, she wrote, quote, "A person reading the crimes of conviction in this case would be left with the impression that the offending defendants were sophisticated international terrorists committed to jihad against the United States. However, they were in actual reality hapless, easily manipulated, penurious, petty criminals." McMahon said the men were not terrorists, but, quote, "impoverished, small-time grifters and drug users, street-level dealers who could use some money." She wrote, quote, "The FBI invented the conspiracy, identified the targets, manufactured the ordinance," unquote. The FBI has relied on an informant who was involved in several other high-profile entrapment cases within the Muslim community.
But here's the thing. I don't think there are many black folk who don't know another black person who wasn't entrapped by the police. Very few. We either know or related to, or we know somebody who was entrapped by the police. We know that. We know them, right? Like personally. I think it's rare. Anyways, I think it's really rare. Or either we heard or whatnot. You know, and then this entrapment by the police, this whole type of thing of entrapping black folk is something that has been happening for like at least almost 150 years. Regularly. In order to criminalize blackness. And the way that the laws are, once you are criminalized, they make sure that you can't get a job. And when you can't get a job, you can't vote, you can't do what does that lead to? It leads to more criminality, correct? Well, here we have 3 converts, black converts, Muslims. Three black converts who were framed and set up for a non-crime. Do we know how many, like this type of framing and setting up black folk is a part of, our culture here? And yet, even though this is like just another story of this happening, you have Muslims who are supposed to be our so-called alleged brothers telling us that we are just imagining this and just to work hard and blah, 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 and trust the system. Can you imagine? Anyways, like I said, divine justice is coming.
Democracy Now! Has closely followed the case of the Newburgh Four since 2010, when Democracy Now!'s Anjali Khanna and Hani Massoud and Jackie Suwin of Big Noise Films traveled through Muslim communities in New York and New Jersey to track the Newburgh case and 2 other entrapment cases. In October 2010, Democracy Now! Aired a special investigation into these cases. This clip begins with Anjali Khanna.
On May 20th, 2009, 4 African-American men from the city of Newburgh, New York, were arrested outside a synagogue in the Bronx. Known as the Newburgh Four, they made national headlines as stark examples of homegrown terror.
Prosecutors described the suspects as extremely violent men who embraced every opportunity for terrorism.
More than a year after their arrest, the Newburgh Four are now facing trial in Manhattan for conspiracy to use weapons of mass destruction and anti-aircraft missiles. But the case has raised serious questions about the government's role in creating and then foiling fake terror plots.
The suspects were duped. The bombs and missiles were fake, supplied by the FBI and NYPD.
Alicia McCollum is the aunt of David Williams, one of the Newburgh Four. Since his arrest, she's tried to mobilize support for her nephew. Taking the train to the first day of the trial in August, she's visibly upset.
I was restless last night. I couldn't even sleep. You know, it was just so much. You know, you think about the family and what you're getting ready to go through, and it's like this whole year fighting for a case, and now it's like finally happening. We're going to trial, and just worry, you know, that the government, you know, want to make a case so bad that my nephew could go away for life. So it's just been like heavy on my mind last night. Very heavy.
Like the other members of the Newburgh Four, 29-year-old David Williams lived in the economically devastated city of Newburgh and had served prison time on drug charges and petty criminal offenses. All 4 men were converts to Islam, and one of them, Laguerre Payen, is a Haitian-born immigrant and a paranoid schizophrenic. Alicia says she was shocked when she heard that these 4 men were being called terrorists.
That was an excerpt from the 2010 Democracy Now! Investigation by Angelique Hammett and Jackie Suin. Alicia McWilliams McCullum went on to directly accuse the government of entrapping her nephew.
This is entrapment. You were sending informant into a impoverished community, the most impoverished county, to do your trickery. You ain't stumbled upon a cell. Nobody didn't tell you that someone was plotting to do anything. You created a crime.
How many times have we heard this story? Is this unique to us? Yes or no? I'm asking the questions here. Is this unique to us? Yes or no? Put it in the chat, please. Is this unique to us? Thank you. A whole bunch of no's. This is not unique to us. So when you find your so-called brothers siding with this, what you got to understand is there's a change happening. You see, black folk, they're not begging anymore. They're not begging for their rights. So this is just like, you find a few who are still on that liberal, you know, let's go protest and, you know, and we shall overcome and all kind of nonsense, right? But the black grassroots, we ain't doing that no more. We ain't about that. We can see the writing on the wall. We can see that these white supremacists are in full panic mode. There's a story, it's not a story, you can say a story from the Prophet, say something, right? Or in the Quran, rather. About Gulibatu Rum, right? How Rome was defeated. Okay? What does Rome have to do with black folk? You see, Rome, there were 2 superpowers at the time of the Prophet Muhammad, say something. The Romans and the Byzantines. Okay? And these superpowers were vying for control. One of them was in decline. And eventually, they ended up eating each other up. Do we know 2 superpowers today, in our time, that are vying for control of the world? Yes or no? Do we know 2 superpowers that are vying for control and dominance globally? Yes or no? Who are the 2 superpowers today? And technically you could say almost 3, but one of the 2 that are working with each other. But who are these superpowers today that are vying for control globally? Who are they? Put in the chat, please. Who are these superpowers? You see, this is nothing new. When you have these types of superpowers, one is in decline, one is coming up, something has to give. So the superpower that has been, on our necks, they are in full panic mode. You have the USA, who was the global dominant player for almost a century. And out of the East, who's coming up? China. China is coming up now. Both these superpowers have the same problem. They're running out of population. U.S. is running out of white folks, okay? And Chinese, because of their one-child policy, is running out of young folks. And now you find them both acting belligerent globally. Which means they can't focus on us like they used to. You get it? They got to focus on each other now. Remember how Joe Biden quickly got out of Afghanistan, and we told you way back then it's because of China? That's why they got out? Well, and you see how the States is going bonkers because all of these Hispanics is at their border. They sending back Haitians back on their rubber boats back to Haiti. They don't want no more Negroes coming up in the country and stuff. Remember, they were forcing hysterectomies on black women. And we covered that story as well. So they can't focus on us like they used to. Which means, if we don't turn back to Allah, then we would deserve everything that comes our way. It is imperative that we turn back to Allah. Because Allah now, like I said, divine justice is coming. Divine justice is coming. Let's keep watching, y'all.
That was Alicia McWilliams-McCullum speaking in 2010. She died last year after fighting for over a decade for the release of her nephew, David Williams, and the other members of the Newburgh Four. Well, David Williams, Anta Williams, Laguerre Payen will now be released within 90 days after last week's stunning judicial ruling. We're joined now by two lawyers who are part of the Coalition for Civil Freedoms, which was founded in 2010 to challenge preemptive prosecution and the post-9/11 targeting, surveillance, and criminalization of Muslim communities. Kathy Manley is legal director for the Coalition for Civil Freedoms, and Stephen Downs is the chair of the Coalition's board of directors, former chief attorney for the Commission on Judicial Conduct in New York State. Stephen Downs and Kathy Manley, welcome to Democracy Now! Kathy Manley, why don't we start with you? The significance of this ruling yesterday by the federal judge. Tell us exactly what she said and how this came about after it's been well over a decade.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. Thanks for having us. It was, at first I got to say, it was so poignant to hear Alicia's voice because she was at the heart of the support for these men all these years. She brought a lot of us together. She inspired us. And when we filed this motion, she was still alive. And we really, really wanted her to see this, to see them get released. And unfortunately, that wasn't to be. Hopefully, she's up there smiling. But this is a significant ruling. This was a wonderful decision. It took a year and a half to happen, but we're so happy that the judge she always understood this case was unfair. She called it the unterrorism case from day one. And she always understood that the 25-year mandatory minimum sentence was way too harsh. But there was nothing, she believed there was nothing she could do about it because basically there is no entrapment defense in the law, and I can talk about that if I have time, but there was no way for her to avoid doing this, she believed. And when we filed this motion, that gave her an opportunity in a compassionate release motion to say this sentence is too harsh. And she did say so. And
there's no entrapment defense in the law, okay? So Royal Generals, he's saying, let me just get my other screen up here. Royal General, so y'all can see, he's saying this got helped entrapped other Muslims also, Munafiqeen type activities. Allahu Alam, okay, that's what he's saying. Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet, man. You ain't seen nothing yet. And the ironic thing is that social media today is a Munafiq farm. It is mass producing Munafiqun social media. Because the new currency, the currency of our time, The currency of our time is attention. Clout is currency. Which is why nobody likes us here. Because we ain't clout chasing. We don't care about that nonsense. You crazy? And we are always consistently calling it out with consistency. The amount of accurate predictions we make out here, we call them Negrodamus and stuff. We don't care about no stank clout. Give me a break. Clout is currency. So when clout is currency, you don't care about principles. Y'all start talking like, you know, you see these YouTubians, these YouTubian elites and stuff. They out here talking about, you know, oh, we have to follow the principles of Islam and follow the principles. That's how they talk. Follow the principles of Islam. I always follow the principles of Islam. You know, I got 2 rules. Always follow the principles of Islam. Number 2, give me $500, my principles are your principles. That's how they are, bro. That's how they are. So Royal Generals, he made a very astute observation, and we're going to get to that in a minute.
And it is a wonderful ruling because it shows that the government created this entire case. You know, the judge is saying this is what we've been saying all along. She couldn't say it was entrapment because there's no entrapment defense. The law doesn't consider this entrapment, but it is entrapment. It's the classic definition of entrapment. And we're just really grateful that she understood the unfairness of this case, and now they will be released.
Stephen Downs, if you can lay out the case for us, and also let's be clear that the judge, Judge Colleen McMahon, is the original judge, right? She has basically reversed her decision.
Y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? She's the original judge. Can't tell me nothing, man. These people are just devils. She knew what she was doing at that time. But again, in ideological warfare, you got to take allies where you can get them. Now, these same folks are trying to ally with the very people they entrapped. You get it? That's how that works. They're demons. Anyways, let's keep watching, yo.
Yeah. Thank you, Amy, for having us on. This is a wonderful democracy now has stood with us for years in calling out the unfairness of this case. And I think people were onto it very early. What simply happened was that the government sent down their key man, Shahid Hussein, who had entrapped people up in Albany and had nothing better to do with him, so they sent him down to hang out in a mosque in Newburgh. And the mosque very quickly caught on to him that he was a phony and a government informant, and they kicked him out. So he went out into the parking lot and began to talk to anybody he could find. So let's do jihad.
Did you hear that? Look at this guy. Do you know this happened to us in Toronto as well? The same thing happened to us in Toronto. Any OG member of Troy can tell you about this. Can't tell me nothing, man. And always they can find these, you know, man, these cooning, raccooning immigrants. I mean, they just come a dime a dozen, man. Look here. Let's keep watching, yo.
Let's get involved. I'm incredibly rich. I've got money. And he hooked some guy who was somebody who got interested in this, not because I think he was at all interested in jihad, but because he was interested in the money. And they talked and off and on, and somebody backed out after a while, and then they...
Did you hear that? So the first place they go, as usual, when these alleged justice organizations need a big case, what they do, they go straight to the black community, find the poorest, most vulnerable black people so they can set them up for crimes, like they've been doing for the better part of a century and a half, all the way back from the slave codes up until today. It's the same stuff. It's modern day slave codes. Don't get it twisted. Just because they change the language doesn't mean they change the tactics. Don't let any of these Scooby snack seeking YouTubian elites pretend to be your brothers. Once they have taken a side with these folks, these are the people they're siding with, they are not your brothers. They want to blame you for the crimes that are inflicted against you. Shout out to Daniel Hakikachu. Shout out to Abdullah Amdalusi. They blame you for being the victims of crimes inflicted against you, then turn around and tell you with some outrageous gaslighting that you're playing the victim card. And have the audacity, when the exact same thing is going on in Palestine, because remember, the apartheid system is a copy and paste system. They can recognize it in Palestine, but they can't recognize it in the black community. They ain't your brothers. Let's keep going, y'all.
Shahid Hussein realized that he was going to lose this fish that he had hooked unless he upped it. And so he came back to him with an offer saying, I'll pay $250,000. And he later tried to deny that in a lie, and the government allowed him to do that. But there's a tape recording that was actually making that offer, $250,000. And so they decided to go ahead with this plot. I believe somebody all along intended to.
Shahid Hussein, y'all. Shahid Hussein. I'm going to give y'all some guesses in the chat. Where is Shahid Hussein from? What country is he from? Put it in the chat, please. I'll let you just guess. Just guess the country, man. Put it in the chat. Where is Shahid Hussein from? Put it in the chat, please. This Muslim brother who went all the way to the black community, didn't go to his own community, didn't go to his own people. He went to find poor black people to entrap in a terror plot. Sister Tika says, let's switch up the screen. Sister Tika says Pakistan. Any other guesses? Iraq. Any other guesses? They leave their own people. You see what I'm telling you about how terrorism is just a fake thing? It's a fake thing. It's something that these governments use to do this stuff. Syria, Somalia. Let's keep watching, y'all. Let's keep watching, y'all.
To try to get the money and not to do anything, not to harm anybody, because that was not his nature. Just before the plot was to go down, a few weeks before, the government suddenly realized that they wanted more people. They wanted to entrap larger numbers. It wouldn't look good if they were just entrapping one person. So they told Crumedy he needed some lookouts. And so he went out and hired and recruited these three young kids who just needed money. And in one case, certainly in David Williams' case, he desperately needed the money to get his brother a liver transplant. And so they joined in for a very brief time, and then the whole thing came down on top of them. There was, I think, never any doubt that the whole purpose of this was the government trying to buy crime with money, offering money to get the crime.
Did y'all hear that?
Terrorism. It had nothing to do with protecting a community against a group of people. What I find.
Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? They're trying to buy crime, fake a crime. I want to rephrase my words before I get in trouble. I don't want to say terrorism is a fake thing. This is what I want to say. I want to say like this, okay? Terrorism is not organic. Put it that way. Terrorism is not organic. Okay? Terrorism always has one of these devils at the head of it. They are always the one financing it. They're always the ones who are selling the weapons. And they're always the ones with some scheme in order to use these terrorist cells to extract resources from some other place, somewhere. Like Boko Haram. Boko Haram, all of a sudden, just out of the blue, Boko Haram comes out when oil is discovered in Nigeria. out of the blue. Y'all see what's going on in the French colonies in Africa right now. Okay? Look what's going on in Nigeria. Look what's going on in Sudan. Look what's going on in Somalia. And Somalia, I'm sorry to say, but Somalians is a pathetic case because when you tell Somalians what's going on, they acting like they still in the 1800s pre-tribal days. You're trying to tell them like, look, man, right? You're trying to tell them like, look, this is what's going on. And they're like the last holdouts, man. Like, y'all know that your all of this is going on is because you are like the Horn of Africa. And the reason why you got fighting is because white folks are coming in there trying to put military bases to control that entire area. Y'all know that, right? And they're treating you like black people. No, I'm not black. I'm Somalian. Just them. Only them. But I digress. That's a different case. Okay? This is what I want to say about terrorism. I don't want to say it's fake. I want to say it's not organic. None of it is organic. Okay? They do this. They use these so-called terrorists to carry out certain agendas. And it's a very easy thing for the people to come behind. Why? Because so many Muslims are very easy to sell out for peace. They will sell out very quickly. And we see it multiplied times 100 in our time, just for social media. Like, we can understand back in the times of 9/11, because there was so much pressure politically, through the justice system, you know what I mean, militarily, there was a lot of pressure. But now you sell out for literally just likes and shares. That's what you sell out for. You sell out the entire ummah for that. It is very easy to use social media to manipulate millions of Muslims. Millions. That's what the Arab Spring was about. It was social media being used to manipulate millions of Muslims to carry out, proxy wars for the West. So it's not organic. That's what I want to say about terrorism. When you find these bone and biscuits, emotional social media moguls talking about, the king of Saudi Arabia, the king of Saudi Arabia. Like, what? What is you talking about right now? King of Saudi Arabia. What is you really talking about right now? You out here in Britain or USA, or even, and you can even make an argument for Canada, even though I love Canada. I do love Canada. Right? But you can actually make an argument for that, because they did actually, and they admitted to setting up, certain Canadians for terrorism. They admitted that. So much so that they had to free one, Omar Khadr, and they gave him reparations for it. Okay. However, you out there talking about the King Salman, when it was the U.S. government, the British government that blew up Iraq, blew up Afghanistan, blew up Somalia. Like, what are you talking about right now? You ain't making no sense. And these people are very easy to manipulate. Very, very easy to manipulate. Because they operate on raw emotions, and they don't look at the world in terms of, like a chessboard. They just react. And if your whole MO is to react, if that's all you're doing, then you get to be placed wherever you react to, right? You're easily manipulated. Let's keep watching, y'all.
really offensive about it was that they then took these entrapment cases and turned them on the Muslim community and used it to generate hatred against the Muslim community by making all sorts of lies and exaggerated statements about what the case was about. They became a purveyor of hate, really, against the Muslim community. And the government has absolutely no business doing that. So that's how it happened.
In 2014, HBO aired the
We knew
documentary
that.
The Newburgh Sting, which featured secret recordings of conversations between the undercover FBI informant, Shahid Hussein, and James Cromedy, one of the men who became part of the Newburgh Four. You have to listen really carefully because some of the audio can be hard to understand. The clip begins with James Cromedy.
None of these brothers got jobs, huh? There's three of us without no jobs. Sure. Financially, how you think we feel, huh? We can really do all this, huh? We got no money in our pockets, huh? How you think we feel? Look at me, bro. How you think they feel?
If these brothers are doing for money, I don't need them, subhanahu wa ta'ala.
No, I talked to them already. They already know.
Okay,
They're not even worried about
it is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's all it is. And if they want need for money or greediness, or they think they're going to make any money or eminence, please do not, because this is jihad. This is jihad. And that's what jihad is.
But you know what they think, huh? They can use the money, though.
So, and that's FBI informant Shahid Hussein and James Cromedy, one of the...
So Shahid Hussein is from where? Shahid Hussein is from where? Put it in the chat, please. That was Shahid Hussein. Where is he from? Just put it in the chat, please. How many times have we talked about foreigners coming to the black community just to mess it up? Where is Shahid Hussein from? Put it in the chat. I want to get to some of these comments here. LK says, they even implement the same single mother epidemic in Somali community, but they still don't think they black. Na'udhu billah, that's crazy. That's crazy. They're getting treated exactly the way that they are planned to get treated, and they still denying it. That's insane, man. Absolutely insane. Now, World Genesis, look from Indian subcontinent, I'm going with Pakistan. He's from Pakistan. From Pakistan. The same old story. You know, Yemenis coming in selling, you know, loose cigarettes and alcohol and whatever, you know. All these other groups coming up, open up their stores, halal shops, everything. Everything. Right? Sending their money back out. They come in. You know, they make sure, oh, you know, when they used to come back in the 90s and the early 2000s, whatever, you know, go to the black masjids and whatnot. As soon as they have enough money for their own masjid, they go build their own masjid in their own community and completely forget the community that helped them out. Totally forget them. Right? But that's not a them problem, that's an us problem. Because we out here forever looking for brotherhood for people who don't want to be our brothers. Like forever looking for brotherhood for people who don't want to be our brothers. And we are the only people that do that. No other people group do that. It's just us. The black community. Making other communities rich since 1611. Whatever. 1614, whatever it was. Enriching every other group. All he had to do is show up with some money to entrap 4 black Muslims, pretending to be he making jihad with his shaved beard and his Mercedes. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? But it gets worse. If you thought it couldn't get any worse, no, it gets worse. Let's keep watching.
The men who became part of the Newburgh Four. Kathy Manley, if you can talk about who the FBI informant was, the fact that he had fled Pakistan, perhaps wanted for murder. He didn't want to be deported, so he was desperate to entrap these men or do what the FBI want.
What? Did y'all hear that? What? Yeah, how many times we told y'all, man, they don't want to be deported. But not only that, he's fleeing for murder. You got like a real gem. This dude is an all-star, bro. Can you imagine? let me ask y'all something. Can a black person, any black person, go anywhere, any Muslim community in the world, any black convert, can they go to any other Muslim group in the world, bring money and talking about we gonna make jihad? Can this happen, yes or no? Just put it in the chat, please. Can a black convert go to any Brayoli masjid or Deobandi masjid or Iraqi masjid or Turkish masjid, just show up with some money talking about we gonna make jihad? Can a black person do that to any other community? Yes or no? Put it in the chat, please. Just put it in the chat, please. Because inquiring minds need to know. Tika says no. LK says no. So how is it that we are the only ones who are subject to this type of behavior? Why do we always, why is it always us? This is why I keep telling y'all this is an us problem. We can't do that to any other people on earth. No Negro is running up to no Croatian masjid talking about we making jihad. No Negro is running up in any Turkish masjid or Bengali masjid or whatever. We ain't doing that. No matter how much money we got, that ain't happening. But once again, you see the foreigner. What is it? You gonna give me master something? You gonna give him some money? You gonna give me some money, brother? Come on, Ach. Come on. You hear the brother? Come on, Ach. They ain't got no jobs, Ach. We need money, Ach. Come on, Ach. To poor folk, money is a control mechanism. Your enemy understands that. Your enemy controls the money. Your enemy controls the politics. Your enemy controls the laws. Your enemy controls the schools. If they control all that, guess what else they control? They control you. They control you. Your enemy lets some Pakistani come up into your community and manipulate your people. Okay? Something that you will never be able to accomplish in a million years. Never, ever. But they are able to accomplish it with very little effort. Anyway, let's keep going, y'all.
Yeah, he was at one point wanted for murder in Pakistan. I don't know the details of that, but after having seen his trajectory in the U.S., it's a long trail of slime. Like, he just kept ripping people off, conning people, tricking people out of their money, and then eventually was caught in a case where he was defrauding the DMV. He was getting people fake driver's licenses, working with a corrupt DMV employee, and the FBI was going to send him to prison and then deport him to Pakistan. But
now, she said a long trail of slime, correct? It was just a long trail of slime. And then she mentioned all the crimes that he did in the U.S., not just Pakistan. He was fleeing murder in Pakistan. But look here. Look. Listen what she said about his crimes. Let's go back.
The FBI wanted.
yeah, he was at one point wanted for murder in Pakistan. I don't know the details of that, but after having seen his trajectory in the U.S., it's a long trail of slime. Like, he just kept ripping people off, conning people, tricking people out of their money, and then eventually was caught in a case where he was defrauding the DMV. He was getting people fake.
This is in the U.S. he's doing this. This is who the FBI recruited. Now, why is this important? Family, do we know certain people in your YouTube spaces that are being pushed very heavily with a long trail of slime? Yes or no? Put it in the chat, please. And not only that, if you know certain people that are being pushed in your social media, by your social media moguls, your social media Muslim moguls, who are being pushed with these long trails of slime, please name them in the chat. You see, history is like a spiral. The only thing that really changes is the technology. But this happened how many years ago? This person was known to have a long trail of slime. The FBI wanted someone just like that because he's a slime ball. And yet, I'm asking it a question. Do we know certain social media moguls who are pushing social media personalities with a long trail of slime? Yes or no? Put it in the chat, please. And if you know who it is, put their name in the chat as well, please. Make sure that I'm not tripping.
Driver's licenses, working with a corrupt DMV employee, and the FBI was going to send him to prison and then deport him to Pakistan. But instead, they gave him an opportunity to work for them in Albany, in our case, the case of Yassin Aref and Mohammed Hussein. And he did very successfully wrongfully prosecute them. He's so deceptive and slimy, and they ended up getting convicted and sentenced to 15 years. And we thought, this guy is so dishonest, and the jury hated him. They probably won't use him again. But sure enough, we found out they used him in the Newburgh case, and they used him in other cases. The FBI loves this guy. And
did you hear that? Did y'all hear that? This is the FBI that Muslims will happily work with in order to catch other so-called terrorists. And encourage other Muslims to work with the FBI to catch terrorists. You see, there it is. There it is. Sister Tika caught it. Tate. And here's the thing. We don't have to say much anymore because so many non-Muslim channels are going into Tate's long trail of slime. We didn't push him. We asked the question, why are these your Muslim social media moguls promoting him? That's what we asked. Now it's coming back to bite them on the booty. And you're gonna see them backing up in the bushes like whatchamacallit? Homer Simpson and stuff. People are tripping, man. Let's keep watching, y'all.
After the Newburgh case, they used him in the Khalifa al-Akili case in Pittsburgh, and that was featured in the documentary T-Error by Lyric Cabral and David Sutcliffe, and that actually featured the clip of Shahid Hussein offering James Carmody the $250,000 when he didn't realize he was being recorded. So this guy, then he went on to form this limousine company in the Albany capital region, and that was very tragically the limousine that killed 20 people in Schoharie County in 2018. And he was in Pakistan at that point, letting his son run the company, and basically telling him how to do it, telling him, don't worry if the brakes don't work, it doesn't really matter, we don't care. And his son is now doing 5 to 15 year sentence while he sits in Pakistan hanging out with his super rich brother Malik, who kind of destabilized government in Pakistan. So this guy has a long history. So, Stephen Dan.
Anyways, y'all get the point, man. This is so crazy, man. But we've been telling y'all from day one about, especially the black folk, that you see how you see foreigners don't see you the same way. They're looking at you as the lick. They're looking at you as the lick. The things that they do to you, you can't do to anybody else. Period. You can't get away with not even a quarter of the stuff that these folks get away with. Y'all hearing me? But anyways, I hope y'all can buy me some coffee. The links, you can see the link there. Buy me some coffee, as well as make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share. Okay? Make sure you get the word out about this channel, inshallah. Right? It's very, very important. As you know, we do not, hold any punches here. Right? We see the forest through the trees very clearly. We ain't out here shucking and jiving and twitching and twirling for anybody. Right? We are your new Black Muslim media. And we are the Black Muslim grassroots. We have no interest at all in selling out. Period. So like, subscribe, share. Hit me up on Patreon. Hit me up on PayPal. Hit me up on the Buy Me a Coffee. And we will see you later. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah reward you and bless you all.